What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of What the Freak. Super excited to have my good brother, my friend, and also we work together, Ollie. Good to have you on, man.
Thanks. Really cool to be on here, and first time doing a podcast like this, so I'm excited to see how this goes.
Hell yeah. Well, we'll just give you a minute to introduce yourself. I know you as just an extremely creative individual, an entrepreneur, super talented photographer, videographer, just really artistic in many ways, even beyond that. So I would just love to have you introduce yourself, let people know who you are.
Cool. My name's Oliver. I'm an Arizona native. I lived my life thinking, just got to do things by the book, and then one day it just cracked to me that I just saw things differently than other people, and I wanted to capture my ideas and thoughts and make them reality. So I started picking up doing digital media, drawing, doing videos, things like that. And then I just have always been working for so long, so it really just inspired me to want something different for myself. So then I started getting to the entrepreneur stuff, doing independent contract work, and just really trying to promote myself as well as other small businesses, to really just step out of their element and into a whole new era or project of their life.
Hell yeah, bro. I love that. Breaking out of the mold.
Yeah, exactly.
Not needing to follow the rules necessarily.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm a rule breaker. I still try to be a good guy, but I don't want to just go with the waves. I want to swim through them, swim against them almost.
Yeah. And in addition to being a rule breaker, you're also a breaker, correct?
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. That was the first thing that I really did as far as creative expression, before I could even draw or even knew that I liked taking pictures, videos. I just started dancing, specifically breakdancing at a young age. I was about 13 years old when I first started. Definitely broke a lot of bones and hurt myself in the process, but it's really shaped a lot of who I am and helps a lot with my creative flow. So definitely see myself as number one dancer above everything.
Yeah, I think that's when I first met you. I remember seeing you dance, and I'm like, "Who is this guy? He's phenomenal!" I think we were building one of those domes at the Full Moon Festival, and in between, you were just dancing, and I was just like, "Dang, this guy's good."
Yeah, I remember those days. Yeah, the whole booty kitchen. We used to just throw on the music, get down and break, building up the dome, and shoot, we would just vibe and dance. So, and I felt safe around everybody, so I would just be able to get down in my full heart's content.
Hell yeah. I'm curious to hear a little bit. Obviously you're an extremely creative person. How did you kind of take the leap? What has been your path on just being an artist, being a creative individual, and then taking that passion and really transitioning into being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, really working for yourself and working with clients? What is that path? What has that path been for you?
Yeah, so specifically for me, I really just started off when I was young, believing that, maybe I don't feel ready to be paid for my art and things like that, but I knew I wanted to do something. So what I would do is I just bought a camera when I was about 16 years old. I was already dancing, but I knew I wanted to do something more, and eventually get paid for it. So I bought a Samsung camera. It was probably $150. I had a job during high school, so it wasn't a problem. And I used to just shoot everything, everyone. Every single day I brought my camera to school. I would take photos of every single person. And I'm telling you, probably from sophomore year to high school year, I probably accrued over 20,000 photos and videos. So, I just really had to practice. And then I kind of took a little step back. I was like, okay, what I thought was a reality check was, for some reason, I told myself, oh, I got to put my passions to the side. I got to get my money right. Then when I got my money right, I'll do my passions. And then I just started realizing, emotionally, physically, I was feeling lower and down and just dreading work. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, like, wow, I'm totally just living in fear. I'm thinking that I got to have everything right before I choose to be who I am. So I just decided to, one day I took a leap of faith, and I bought a professional camera, and I would just go out to parties. And I was never really a big drinker or partier at all. When I would go, I would pretty much go with the sole intent of wanting to sharpen my craft, learn how to speak to people, because none of that stuff is easy at first. When you're a creative and you don't really fully believe in yourself as being the person who's worth all this, you are afraid to step out into the light with it. So then I just started more and more learning from really just powerful people who just really did the stuff. And number one thing that I think really, set me on the full path was learning this kind of just mindset is you got to get comfortable in the uncomfortable. Where you're at, everything you desire is just outside that bubble. And, once I started learning that, I just realized, like, wow, the moments that I feel uncomfortable are the moments where something could happen for me. And then I just started kind of rolling with that idea, that feeling of just being ready to step out into the light. And maybe I fail, maybe I don't. And the number one thing that really helped me all those times I did fail was one of my mentors, Sarah. She would always say, you know what? Failure is a great thing. I love when I mess up, because at the same time, even though I'm messing up, I'm learning an even greater lesson through that. So I just, every single day, I start living with that mentality. And the today mentor, Sarah, she told me, you know what, because she was my boss, but we were independent contractors. So she just was like, hey, you know what? No matter what you do, no matter you have a job that has a 401k, whether you're a 1099, nothing's for certain. Anything could happen, no matter what. And we live in Arizona, which is a right-to-work state. So I realized, you know what? Really, anything can happen. So then I just realized I don't have to live in fear, because every day is not guaranteed. So I just started, I bought an even more advanced camera, and I just started going out to festivals. I started reaching out to people, handing out business cards, things like that. And, all of that was so hard. I never really grew up being taught how to be extroverted. It was actually the opposite. So all of that was definitely just trial and error. And I think that really was my grace, was the fact that it wasn't that I wasn't afraid. It was the fact that I was more afraid to not try. So that really just jet set me to a whole new level of comfort, to where I can step out and just ask people if they wanted to work, ask people to pay me for the work. So it's been definitely a long journey, but I would say for me, it's been a fun one, because even though it was so hard, because where I'm at now, and thanks to the help that I've come along, that's come along my way, I definitely feel really powerful, because I can help a lot of other people kind of overcome that same thing. Because I think that's something that a lot of us struggle with, is being afraid and not knowing what it looks like to live in courage. So I think that's kind of one thing that just really helps keep me going, is I want to be that person for people. And that really helps me keep working on my art and sharpening it and refining it.
Wow. Thank you for sharing all of that. It's really inspiring to just hear more of, your journey and how you took the leap on, like, you bet on yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and that's huge. Like, I really resonate with that. And I also loved how you talked about, you know, not waiting for the right moment, right? Until you have this much money saved up or that much, you know, whatever. You decided, like, hey, this is important to me, so why don't I just go after it, you know, and make a way out of no way. And I also resonate with the getting comfortable being uncomfortable. That's such an important quality to being an entrepreneur, and really just living a courageous life. And I also wasn't taught how to be extroverted growing up. I had to really learn that myself over the last 10 years especially. And stepping into business actually really pushed me outside of my comfort zone, because then I kind of had to, like, I was kind of forced to be more extroverted and meet more people and talk to them and, you know, interact with them in that way. So it was, you know, uncomfortable. It was challenging, but also I'm really grateful for it. And now most people who meet me don't realize how incredibly introverted I used to be, because I'm a lot more balanced now, because I've really developed that more extroverted part of myself, that more like outward social part of myself. And when I need to be, I can be very social now. Whereas previously it was a lot more challenging.
Yeah, definitely, you know, for people, I think even like us, it's like it might not be who we are all the way down to the core, but at least it's something that we can learn how to be, almost like a tool. And that's just really, for me, what makes it easier. You know, maybe I know I feel this way, but because of all the struggle that I've gone through, I'm like, okay, I can logically think my way through this too. And it's like, okay, so, you know, all the struggle that I've gone with almost whispers to me in those situations, is like, hey, this is what makes you feel uncomfortable. So then sometimes I think, well, let me do the opposite. You know, sometimes I'm like, yeah, you would feel a lot better if you didn't walk up to them. And I'm like, wait a minute. But that's absolutely that moment where I think I should absolutely go up to those people. And it's really truly been rewarding every time that I've gone against my own grain, you know, my own programming per se, you know, stay quiet, you know, do good in school and just work. Like, you know, that really does breed a lot of just quietness and not stepping out. So I think it's really cool that, you know, when people struggle with these things, I feel like they become even more empowered by that. And we can empower even more people with that, because we get it. We know what it's like to be like that.
Yeah. I think that's part of the reason why I have so much respect for business owners and people who are on that path, because it almost like forces you to grow in certain ways that are uncomfortable, that maybe don't come as naturally. And I think each person steps up to the plate with a different set of strengths and weaknesses, a different set of skills and things that they don't know how to do. And you're going to have to learn certain things that you don't know how to do, and you're going to have to improve on certain weaknesses if you want to keep progressing down that path. Whereas if you're just, you know, working a job with someone, it's like you may not be challenged in those same ways. You may be able to just stay comfortable and get by with not seeing those parts of yourself. But when you're in business for yourself, it starts and it ends with you, right? And it's like you are the biggest limitation on your own growth and the business's growth. So the more you can actually identify those parts of yourself that need some work, the more that you can actually move the business forward when you do improve in those areas. So I think it's a really, it's like you're putting yourself into the fire time and time again, and coming out stronger on the other side.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely resonate with that for sure. It's definitely a constant battle, you know, and every time you get back into the fire, you become a little bit more steeled. So I definitely love that, and it's none of it's easy. It gets easier, but I think even for the pros who, whatever it is, they'll probably feel the same exact way, that every day it's still hard, and that really gives me a lot of just peace of mind. Because, I think a lot of us entrepreneurs, we can get easily the imposter syndrome. That's how I learned it is, look, all these people are telling me I'm good, but I'm not where I think I need to be. So a lot of times that voice in our head puts us down. It makes us even more afraid to step out of the comfort zone. And I think to me, also I resonate with, it really does come from, we do limit our own selves. I truly believe that, because I realized how much passion I had, but I didn't have enough mental clarity or emotional clarity to just step out of that and just stop holding myself back. And I really think that is what's been helping me get where I'm at, is focusing on my mental health. Because especially as an entrepreneur and business owner, you get depressed. You get like, oh my God, this month was slow. What am I doing? Am I the problem? Like, I thought people loved me, and all these things just come up. And I think that when you really get the reins on your mental health, as far as not eliminating those ideas, but being able to realize, hey, these ideas come up and they're natural, but it doesn't make me any less great. And I think that's really been what's helping me too, with the whole just kind of, because I haven't had a job in 2 years, and that was the one thing that was really what helped me, was learning, like, look, we all go through this hardship. We're all tossed into the fire every day. But if we can bring our heart and our minds together and being centered and realizing it's all a process, it's all steps, then I think we are all capable of chasing all our dreams, and I think we struggle with seeing, social media or magazines or TV, you see everyone at their destination. So we think, if I'm not there, then what am I doing? But, it's all part of it. It's all part of it. We're being forged. And when you're forging a blade, it starts off as just minerals. So I think, that's a really big saving grace for me, when I get those emotions of holding myself back or feeling like I'm I'm constantly fighting.
Yeah. Yeah, that comparison can be so unhealthy, when we start comparing ourselves to others and their successes, and we don't see their struggles or their challenges most of the time that they're going through, even in that success, and I also definitely resonate with what you're talking about of, people around you might be like, oh my God, like, you're so amazing, and that's all can be true. And you have to know where you're at and what your edge is and where you need to keep working and growing so that you can keep on progressing forward. And I've experienced that a lot. And at times I've gotten, I think, moments of or periods even of like complacency where I'm like, cool, like I am really successful in a lot of ways that I sought out to be. And wow, like I really am doing this and working for myself and, creating something cool that I'm passionate about. And, and it's easy to, it comes to mind, there's a phrase, something to the effect of, you're only as good as your last game.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to keep working, you got to keep putting in the effort, you got to keep putting in the daily. And, that's not always easy to do that. That's like, entrepreneurship is like, it's all up to you. It's like, you could not do anything today, or you can like move things forward in a certain way. And I think that's almost like, the price of freedom, the freedom that we get to experience, paving our own path, designing our own life in a way that, others aren't quite able to do so, is, you have to be more self-motivated. You have to be more disciplined and, be willing to take responsibility for your success and your failure. And you have to really, like you said, handle your mental health too. Even just this last week, I was going through some just like dark moments where I'm just like, damn, like I'm doing so much and like the macro of what I'm doing is like everything's going so well. But then inside of myself, I'm like, why do I feel worthless? And why do I feel awful? And why do I feel like I'm not doing anything? Like it's just a constant, it's like no matter what plateau you reach, there can still be those like negative thoughts that come up and those negative emotions that come up. And you just have to learn how to deal with those better. And like you're saying, like not take them so seriously. Like it doesn't have to mean something about like who I am at my core. It's like who I am at my core is awesome, is amazing, and I don't always feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, I also really, even though I fight to really work on not having those moments, I've also learned that to deal with those feelings better is I kind of changed my mindset about it. How I frame it is when I have those dark moments, it's not because something's wrong with me. At least that's what I'm telling myself now. When I'm telling myself now, when I have like a putting down moment, I realize I feel this way because I believe there's more for me. So I really just realized like, look, these thoughts, I'm totally misinterpreting why I'm having them. We have them, but not everybody has them. And a lot of times entrepreneurs have them because we are realizing there's so much more for us. And subconsciously, we feel like we're holding ourselves back. And because of that, we think there's something wrong with us. But I just realized, like, look, I want so much. And until my desire matches how big my dreams are, I won't be there. And if I literally am saying what I have right now is all I'm worth, but I have these dreams, then there's not synchronicity. So that's really where it comes to me, where the mental health then really starts getting in the way, because you start, so much is subconscious. A lot of us don't realize how we know what we want and we know how to get there, but we keep trying to convince ourselves that we don't. But our mind and soul knows it, and I think that's really where those dark thoughts come from. So, I used to struggle with that so much. And, you hear all this stuff, and in theory, yeah, it sounds great, but I didn't know how to do it. I'm like, all right, unless I pay some guru to teach me step by step, I didn't know what to do. So I just realized, like, to me, my cheat sheet for, like, getting past those thoughts was, one, was understanding why I have them. And two, I would literally every single day for an entire year listen to motivational quotes and videos every morning. I would go on YouTube, I'd go on Spotify, whatever it is. I would literally, if I was feeling a way, I would type in motivational quotes about depression or motivational quotes about, artist block, things like that. We live in a world where you can type in pretty much what you feel and someone else has felt it and they can give you some tips about it. And I just realized, like, some of us really do need an external source of, help or motivation or inspiration. Some people are blessed and it comes from within, and that's like totally great. I think though a lot of my personal experiences with other entrepreneurs, that's oftentimes not the case. A lot of times, you gotta chat, you gotta have meetings like with you and I right now. We gotta have meetings with mentors, with friends who've succeeded, friends with who's failed. And I think that really is an action step, because I think that's really what it is for entrepreneurs. Is we have these mindsets, we have these goals, but if our action steps can align with that, then I think we'll be a lot better off. It really helps with the mental, because I think the dark mind really does come up more when you just have all these things that you want, but you didn't actually add into the plan how you get there. So, I think that's really the number one thing for us all, is just wanting what we want, but just actually taking the time to learn what it means to do that.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. What's coming up for me when you share all that is I'm almost getting this visual of like this like tension in the chord, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like if you're just like you're saying, happy with where you're at now, it's like, oh, like this is all that I am, or this is, I've kind of achieved, the height of what I can do, and you listen to those thoughts, then there's no tension and you don't have any motivation to do more.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a good thing to have that motivation. It's a good thing to say, this isn't all I can do. Now, I think there's the shadow side of that of getting stuck in like, oh, like I'm no good, or like, not acknowledging or celebrating your successes. I think that's important.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to, really acknowledge and celebrate the steps along the journey. And it's totally okay to have big dreams. It's totally okay to have big desires on where you want to go and knowing what your potential is, and I think that's something I struggle with sometimes because I have such big dreams and visions of myself and what I can create that it almost seems like too much or like too far away, or like, oh, like I can't really go for that. Like, oh, like who am I to like have these big of dreams that of where I want to head to. But really it's like, who am I not?
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
why not?
Yeah.
Why not have these big dreams? I'm not attached to needing to achieve all of them or get somewhere in order to be happy. It's like I can be happy at each stage in the process. And I think there's so much more happiness available to me as I move closer to those bigger dreams. And just really like how you put that of, not being afraid to say, this is what I want and this is what I'm capable of. And I'm actually not fully satisfied with where I'm at right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just, perhaps it's like one of those balance things, right? Where it's like you want to be happy enough with where you're at now and to enjoy the process, but also like I think it's good to have that bit of tension that's kind of pulling you forward. And I love how you framed, your experience of like those negative thoughts. Like you kind of reinterpreted what they mean to kind of like use that as a fuel source of like motivation for yourself to be like, hey, it's not a bad thing that I'm feeling this way. It's just pointing to something. It's pointing to my potential. It's pointing to what I can become. And I think that's super crucial. And the last thing I was hearing you saying towards the end there was how important it is to have external support, whether that's through like motivational videos or mentorship or even just other peers who are kind of doing something similar. It's like, I think someone who even does have like a strong internal motivation, I would definitely consider myself someone who has cultivated a very strong internal motivation. I still need external sources too of motivation because I can get lost inside of myself, or it's just not quite enough, or it's just not quite the thing I need in this moment. I need something different. I need a different stimulus, a different perspective that might, spark something new within me that I couldn't quite figure out on my own. Even just having this conversation with you is like sparking a couple of things inside me. I'm like, ooh, I should like look at that, or ooh, I should like, explore that more, lean into that more. So I think it's good. Like why not have both?
Mm-hmm.
Why not continue cultivating one's inner motivation and dreams and desires and have as much external support as you can get? I think that's like, the best way that I know to set myself up for success is to have both the internal fortitude to move things forward on my path and to have the external support systems that will keep me accountable and keep me moving forward and give me new ideas and perspectives so that I don't get as stagnant or stale.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and I really do love just like collaborating with people because, there's more to this thought. But one thing I've also learned and heard is you wouldn't ask a dentist to do your plumbing work, right? You wouldn't ask them because you're like, okay, you don't know. But at the same time, I learned to evolve that mindset and that kind of thought is maybe I wouldn't ask a plumber to do my dentist work, but I could also ask the plumber, how do you get up every morning at 7:30 a.m. sharp and you're on time every single day? Or how do you manage your books so well? You know, and I just started realizing, like, for me, what held me back from mentors or from getting external help was almost arrogance and ego. It's like, no one knows what I'm doing. You're not a photographer or you're not what I am. So why would I listen to you? And I just realized, like, wow, there's so much to be learned from every single person. And I started really learning about other people's procedures, how they do things. You know, I've never even baked a cake ever, but I could definitely respect the fact that a baker is so good at paying attention to details that it makes me think, wow, how can I transmute what you do and apply it to what I do? And that really just started making everybody a mentor to me, because before it was like, oh, well, either they have to be my boss, they have to be rich, or they have to like have this spirit to them that made me believe that they could be someone to listen to. And I just started realizing, like, wow, I have literally hundreds, if not thousands, of mentors every single day if I choose to see that everybody has something to offer and that can help me get to where I'm at. So I think about that a lot, you know, with every single person. You know, we go to the pizza shop. I'm thinking, how can I apply what I'm learning here to what I'm doing somewhere else? You know, with my photography, am I greeting people with smiles? Am I answering the phone calls professionally? So, you know, every single day you learn more and more. And if you're able to like have the skill to like catch what you learned and like not just let it fly away, and every day you're being mentored. And it's really what's been helping me out. It's just being open to ideas and being open to letting people teach me.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, one of my friends and early mentors said something similar to what you just described, where he's like, yeah, like every person can be my teacher. Or, you know, there's a guru inside of every person. Every human is like masterful at something. And I can learn something. I can learn at least one thing from every person that I meet. And I think that's a really powerful lens to view things from. And it really, I think, creates more human connection as well. So I think we live in a society where we're, you know, even just subconsciously taught to like look down on other people or like see them as separate or different than us in some way, see ourselves as better than other people, superior. And it's really, I think, a genuinely humble thing to view other people as our teachers. And, you know, that's not to say that, you know, I'm going to learn, you know, everything from one person, or that maybe that person doesn't also have some things that just aren't helpful for me or don't resonate. But I think as long as I use my discernment, I can figure out what that thing is that I can like learn from this person, like what they can teach me, what they have to offer to me, which sometimes can even be, you know, that they just challenge my views in some way. You know, maybe they don't have something positive to offer, but maybe I even have a negative experience with somebody, and that can even be a teacher. And that's not even to judge that person or say there's anything wrong with that person, but just, you know, no matter what experience I have with someone, I can learn from that experience as long as I view it in such a way. Actually have a really cool example of this. So we recently got a bad review on on one of the review sites.
Okay.
We had like messed up somebody's order in kind of a big way, and this guy was reasonably very upset, and left us a 1-star review, and I was like, dang, like that sucks, and I just took it as an opportunity not to say like, oh, like screw this guy, he's just whatever, upset. I was like, no, like let me really sit with this. Let me really be with this and see what's here and see why this happened and what lesson this has to teach me. And what I can get out of this experience, how I can grow from this experience. So I really, read through what he had to share and kind of understood the situation and where we had went wrong, and, replied to him and just gave a heartfelt apology. I was like, hey man, like that sucks. I take full responsibility. We definitely messed that up, and that's an awful experience that we created for you, and that's not what I want. And it makes me sad that we made a mistake, and that ended up hurting the relationship. And the guy was fortunately super gracious and reached back out, and was just like, hey, thank you, like I appreciate you actually responding and taking responsibility. And we ended up kind of smoothing it over, and I, sent him a gift card as just an apology and a thank you. And it ended up turning into kind of like a positive interaction by the end of it. And it didn't come from a place of, oh man, like I need to get this negative review off my side. It was like, oh shoot, like here's a human being here that we delivered a bad experience to, and I just want to like connect with this human and just let them know however they respond, like, hey, like that's, that didn't feel good. And that's not who we are ultimately, and that's not who we want to be in the future. And it was just a really cool moment that even, those experiences initially are negative experiences, I think can be turned into a positive if we are open to that. If we allow them to be, if we show up with enough humility and just like reverence and like, hey, like what's here for me? What can I learn from this person, from this situation? That's been a really powerful practice for me on my growth path lately, especially the last year or two, is like, how can I learn from, negative experiences and take something away from that and grow in the process to become an even better human.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is a super important thing too, like with clients, friends, anybody. It's just like when you come from not a place of trying to see how they're wrong and you're right, but a place of like just, simplified is just love. When you're about to do a catering and you just have a really bad experience with, the potential client, and you could come up with every reason why to talk crap, and subconsciously and even sometimes consciously we start thinking, I need to look out to avoid people like this. But just in my journey, I personally realized that the best lessons I would learn was when I was being critiqued and told how I wasn't doing that well. Because I realized when you are being constantly told you're doing everything right, you do get short-sighted. And that was one thing I noticed about myself, was like I was looking for the people who would only tell me you're great without realizing like, why are they saying I'm great? Sometimes you even notice, like I'm showing someone a picture, oh, it's perfect. Well, I mean, you just looked at it for 2 seconds. So a lot of times too, people just, and it's great that they support us because they love us. But sometimes we need the people who have nothing to do with us to tell us that's actually not that great. And the fact that you think you're so, you're so beyond improving is hindering yourself. I just realized like that's so true. It's like I love being loved and appreciated for all my things, but I really love also when people can remind me, hey, there actually is this way that you could be even better because of how you spoke about things. A lot of times we're blind to our own selves. Like for me, like I'll look at a picture And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so great. I did everything I needed to. And I show it to somebody who is honest, and they'll tell me, hey, actually, I don't know if you noticed, but you see this right here, you see that. I'm like, wow, like I've shown this picture to 5 other people, and not one of them took the time to actually look at it deeply enough to tell me if it actually was what I thought it was. So I just love those moments, like, yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's a little awkward, you got to tell someone, hey, I don't think anybody really likes admitting when they messed up. I don't, but I
Totally.
Also
Same.
love being like, yeah, I don't really like the part of saying that I messed up or I'm sorry, but I do love what comes after it, because then it's like, look, when you learn how to, for me, like I've learned how to just control the situations. It's like, look, you don't have to love me even though I'm apologizing, but all I know is that in my heart, my integrity does not feel at fault, or it doesn't feel hindered, because I still did everything that I could to make it right, even though I didn't do it right the first time. And if I tried to still make it right and it was still not right, I'm like, well, it's better that I still didn't do it right than me saying I don't care and I didn't even try.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. And I think the only thing I'd add to that is, and this has been another layer of my experience that has been adding on lately, which is, I'm becoming more discerning with who I ask for certain types of feedback or criticism, to make sure that that person is actually the right person for that type of feedback or criticism I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And that they're coming from the right intention and like energy, like it's like one thing to, have someone criticize a photo, but if they don't actually know that much about photography, or they actually don't have the best of intentions with their feedback, and they're just trying to, tear you down or something, it's like someone you don't know. It's like you're not going to listen to every, if you like post a video on YouTube and you get a bunch of people in the comments saying, "Ooh, this sucks," or, it's like that's not helpful. It's not like valuable feedback, and it's not feedback that I would trust. So I think for me, that's been another layer is not just, being willing to get feedback is huge. Being willing to admit when I made a mistake or could do something better is important. And I think also having those conversations with the right people is also really important to me. And yeah, because I think too many times I just, I think was asking for feedback when really what I was asking for was some kind of validation of some kind, rather than like, hey, like this is actually, I want this specific type of feedback. So I think that's been another piece for me in my experience that's been really helpful, is knowing like the right people for the type of feedback that I'm looking for, and making sure that it's actually going to be useful and like help me to improve, rather than just, making me feel good or making me feel bad, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally super resonate with that, because like I said earlier, like a lot of times I do, more consciously than unconsciously, is I'm looking for credible people, and I also make sure to segue into those things properly, because there's people who I know, you ask them to be honest and they will be honest, but a lot of times, even for me, if someone tries to ask me for advice, I'm thinking, how can I be polite, or how can I honor you by telling you all these positive things, But I think it really is helpful for any kind of situation to just be like, look, I'm asking for feedback in this exact way. It's like, I need you to tell me, is this what I'm thinking it is, And I don't really want to hear if you necessarily like it per se, but I honestly want to hear what you think, because a lot of times, for me, I would go to bosses because I'm like, look, we're not personal. You like me because I'm a great worker, but that's all we are. So a lot of times it was an easy way to get feedback that was not biased. So I love non-biased feedback, to be honest. Like, look, just tell me what it is. You and I, we do so well because we communicate about those things all the time. It's like, hey, this isn't exactly what I was looking for. So instead of being upset about that, it's like, oh my God, it's so great that now it's like what I thought I can get even closer to what it needs to be. So I think that kind of practice for everybody is really important. When you're about to jump in, you're about to quit the workforce per se, or you're just gonna be an entrepreneur, or you're gonna be a full-time baker. It's just really just learning to find those people for you. And sometimes you make the people for you. Like, there's friends that I have that I'm like, look, I know you love me and I know you're biased, but I also know you respect me enough to hear what I'm saying, and I'm saying, don't be. So, that was one thing for me, is why I've expanded more so on who I can come to. Because I would not go to anybody ever. I'm like, look, you don't know crap. Yeah, like the metaphor I used earlier. You wouldn't ask a plumber to do your dentist work, But I also, like I said, there's layers to it, and just expecting people to give you what you want without asking for it is a surefire way to getting not what you wanted.
Yeah, that's powerful. If you can be friends with someone, have a connection with them, but also have them be honest when you really are looking for that specific feedback, like that's a little more rare to find and or to develop, really. And I think when I really think about, because I'm fortunate to have a good amount, I would say, of those type of relationships in my life now, but that's something I cultivated over time. It's like I built a good relationship with somebody, but then maybe we work together in a certain capacity and we're able to give each other honest feedback on our work, because I think we've built that foundation of trust, and we know where the other person is coming from, and they're not coming at us from a place of like trying to put us down, but rather trying to build us up, trying to help us become better versions of ourselves. And so yeah, it's almost like you can either go to someone for feedback who has no attachment to you personally, and then that can be a way to get more unbiased feedback. And I think there's kind of the other route of building such a strong connection with someone where they can be real and honest with you, and they can love you at the same time. And that's, I think, the most powerful type of feedback that I receive is from those type of relationships now that I've developed over time.
Yeah, definitely. Because, I do love unbiased opinions, but sometimes that shit hurts. You're like, all right, you don't have to be that brutal, but thank you anyways. So it does definitely feel cool when you can have someone who it's like, look, you're gonna say what you need to say, and I want to hear it, but you can also, because you love me, deliver it in a little bit of a softer way.
Sure.
Sometimes we don't need it soft. A lot of times we don't, but it is nice when we can still have that nice balance of truth, but still with love.
Totally. Yeah. So what's, as we're kind of moving towards wrapping up, what's kind of the one thing you would say to someone who is, passionate about something, they're considering, they want to like turn that into a business or really start to make a living from what they really enjoy doing most? What advice would you give someone who's maybe on the fence about really pursuing that path more seriously?
So for me, I think it's really a multiple of things, but it's like you can categorize it. It's like, 1, you got to have the dream, and 2, you got to have the either internal and external motivations, and lastly, I think this is the most important, is you got to have action goals and action steps. So whatever it is, if you want to be you want to work on cars, you want to be a photographer, you want to own a crystal shop, it really does take research. It takes the time, because a lot of people, in my opinion, don't start because they don't know. So a lot of times you'll hear your friends or people passing by say, I really want to do this. I want to do this. I just don't know how. And I think that's really the number one problem, because we all know how to have dreams. We all know how to have ambitions, but we also all don't know what it means to file these taxes for this certain thing. We all don't know how to create an invoice. We don't know how to track all our expenses. So I think it really comes down to writing a list of what it takes. And for me, I love Google. I love being able to use those tools. Whatever search engine you use, cool. But I would literally type, what does it mean to be a photographer? Or how do I start a business in Arizona? How do I, literally, like, you ask these questions and you get the answers. The manifestation comes from those who desire. I have this button at home and it says, he who desires the most wins. So when you desire it so much, you start asking yourself these questions like, what will it have to take? So for me, I would say, go on Google, type in, what does it mean to be XYZ? Or how much does this, position pay? How many of these are in my area? Just to get like an idea, just to really see, to turn the idea into an actual manifestation. And I used to write everything down. Yeah, I love digital. I love typing stuff up. But if you're a person like me who thoughts can fly away and you don't want to spend all your time on your phone and technology, I would say do yourself a favor and buy a pen and pad and write these questions. And I literally used to wear a backpack every single day with my notebook in it, no matter where I went. I'd go to a fancy event. Well, I'm going to take some notes. And every place I went, I have literally like 10 journals just full of notes from conferences, questions that would randomly come in my head. I'll even audio record. Maybe I don't know how to write the question down, but I just say what's in my head. So it really just comes to making the time to write out and see what you want rather than only just thinking about it. Because the thoughts, they come and go. We have the monkey mind, the dark mind. So when we got these thoughts and we're also fighting against thoughts that come up on their own, sometimes those thoughts that we want disappear. So just, for everybody, I think it really just starts with searching the one thing that is holding you back. Because we usually do have, one or two things specifically. And if we all reflect on what that thing is that we're afraid of, that because we don't know, then we realize it's not as big of a demon that we thought in our head it is. It's like a lot of people, I don't, I've only been, I'm used to only W-2s. Hey, if I got a business, I'd have to do something else. Like, well, someone else is doing it. I'm like,
it's figure outable.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, come on, you see Susie over here, she's doing it. You guys came from the same high school, same kind of area, this and that. So if somebody could do it, you could do it, type of situation. So I think that really is what, the desires are there. We all want them. It's just more so learning how to stop being afraid of actually succeeding, because that's really, in my opinion, the number one fear people have is success. Because then it comes with, movies feed us with more money, more problems. They're like, yeah, okay, to an extent, it is true. But to me, I think more money, more responsibility. But because I have more responsibility, I'm actually that much closer to my happiness. So I'm like, it ain't a problem. Getting more money ain't a problem. It's about not understanding that, when you have more and more responsibilities, you got to be on it. You got to have your procedures. Like, I would write out my own procedures all the time. Like, if I get a client, I got to email them. When I email them and they don't respond, I got to follow up and do this. Like, make yourself a business, actual business. Like, write your procedures out. Write if you were a corporate building, what would you want to happen? And I just started kind of thinking it like that. I'm like, look, I might be a small business, but it has nothing to do that word. It doesn't mean I'm small. And it doesn't mean that I have to skip the necessary things. So I think it really is about fulfilling the necessaries. So that way, when it comes to the next step, you're like, look, even if I mess up, I'm at least further than where I was before. So I think that really is what just we all can benefit from, is just having all our ducks in a row. So that way, even if you are repeatedly failing, you can still look back and say, but damn, look where I'm at now. Even though I'm not in the trajectory that I imagined for myself, but I ain't at the bottom of that mountain anymore. You're on the mountain. You're high up.
You're on the path.
You're on the
You're
path.
going for it.
Yeah, and there's a ton of mountains. And I love this quote. It's like, journey, it's you get to the top of a mountain, but you see another mountain, even bigger. The only way you can get to that mountain is by going down the one you already came from. So I just think about that all the time. I'm like, look, I already did so much. I'm at the top of my mountain, but look at that huge volcano. I'm trying to climb that. Like, so I got to not be afraid of going back down to the valley and restarting a whole new venture. Because if I don't, then I'm not going to get what I want.
Totally.
So, I just think that action steps is the key for everything, for everyone. And I know, because it's been helping me, that it's such a powerful tool that none of us really think about. Because, we hear a lot of podcasts, a lot of things of how to do it. It is helpful, but a lot of times all I hear is about mental, about ideas, get up, make your bed, and just do it. I'm like, well, what's doing it? Like, doing it can be anything. And for me, I definitely struggle with seeing, like, well, what is doing it? So I think it's just, obviously it's subjective to everyone, but we just got to take the time to figure out what doing it means for each of us.
Yeah, trusting that you know what to do, or you can find out what it is to do if you're honest about what your desires are. Yeah. Cool, brother. Well, thanks so much for coming on. It was super great dropping in with you and just hearing some wisdom that you had to share with us. And so excited to be able to share this with people. How can people follow you, follow your work, if they're interested to learn more about you?
Yeah, so definitely a couple ways. I have a Facebook. You have my personal, Oliver Renteria. But a lot of times I direct people to my media page. So it's Those Guys Productions. Instagram, it's Those Guys. Super simple. My website, it's thoseguys.co.
Cool.
Online gallery, just with big blow-ups of all my photos, because Instagram is great, but I love seeing big pictures. So yeah. So it's Those Guys. You put me in Google, I pop up.
You're the one.
Yeah, I've had I think it was I forgot which magazine, but they did an article on me, so I pop up. So you put in Oliver Renteria or It's Those Guys, and I'll show up.
Perfect. Yeah, and we'll link those in the show notes as well.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on, brother. It's great having you. And thanks, everyone, for listening. Appreciate you. Go after and get those dreams.
Exactly. Thanks for having me. And definitely hope that this inspires somebody out there.
I think it will.
Definitely. Thank you.